Hello, my name is Arthur, and in this video I'm going to give a take damage type of animation to the player. And I'm going to keep this really simple. It'll get the idea across, and more can be done to the animation than I'm going to do. I'm just going to make it very simple. So I'm going to make a new animation, call it take hit. I've added a second animation player because the animation will play regardless of the other animations that are playing. So they'll still apply, and he'll be able to do his little take hit animation. So I'm going to change this to 0.5 seconds. And what I'm going to animate is his color. So I'm just going to modulate his color. At the start of the animation, we'll put him in at normal color. At the end of the animation, put them in at another color. And then about here, I'll key them in at some drastic color. Whoops, that was a mistake. So we can just slide around here. We'll just put them at that color. And we can have him flip colors or do more animation, but I'm just keeping it simple so we can move on to other things. It gets across the idea of how to do it. So here in take damage, we're going to just add animation player 2 dot play take hit. So that's scripted in. Now on the enemy character, I've already added in an animation player and gave him a color modulation too. And the difference with the enemy character is he has the sprite and the head. So he has a body and the head. Now, there's a consequence here. The fire is going to modulate with the head. Depending on how distracting that is, if that becomes problematic, I'll probably unchild the fire from the head and repair the script anywhere that it needs to be fixed. And hopefully that will work out. It could turn into an issue, but yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure of another way to do that. So what we could do is look in the animation and get an idea for what is happening to the fire. So yeah, it's modulating too. Short of, I'd imagine that there's actually a way to fix that for the fire. And that would be to key it in for an animation as well. So I would probably key it in. Oh, I think I used snap on this one. And then key it in. And then key it in. So that should hold the fire animation solid for his animation. Now let's get that animation player back where it belongs. Want to make sure the animation player's playhead is in the right place. So I forgot to turn off the visibility on this fire. I can see that. You can see the brief animation for when enemy took a hit and the animation when I took a hit. And it's not much of an animation, but it gets the idea across in as short amount of time as it should take. Of course, it can be animated more and more things can be keyed in. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to go with, though. I'm going to go with the simple animation. Now, for the player die animation, what I've done is I've opened up my player animation file, and I've saved it as a branch, so I saved it as player die. We can make an animation for him. Let's wind him up to frame 100 to say 120, something like that. That might be a bit much. We'll decide on exactly how much. Now we're going to add a quick effect to the player. Let's use quick explode, and we'll come into the properties. We'll change this to 1,000 and make the lifetime about 5. We have start frame 100 and end frame 110. And that's the emitter time, because the explosion is emitting particles. So we want it to be able to taper off so he'll kind of disappear into nothingness. And then in velocity, we could give a little bit of randomness, so maybe put that up to 2. And then just see what we get out of that. So basically he's just going to fall apart and then disappear. So in this, he's disappearing by frame 15. He's completely gone. So we could get an idea for what that looks like at different frames. So that's about a third of the way through here. So he will just fall apart kind of deal. So that's what I'm looking at for the player animation. So I'll just render that out, and that's going to take a little bit different figuring. He's going to figure a little different because he's going to have to get lined up with the other sprite. So this animation will have to get lined up in order to work in Godot. Then for the enemy unit, I was thinking of making him explode too, but use a different kind of explosion for him. So I'm going to open him up the same way that I did when I made the sprite sheet for him. So I'll go into my project creation files. I'll open up all of the layers of the enemy as layers, because that's what I did with him to make his sprite sheet. Image, crop to content, because this is what I did with his sprite sheet. Then I would want to turn off all but the first layer of his head and the first layer of his body. Can control all, edit, copy visible, control shift paste the visible layers. I'll just close down this image. Now this image would be what I'd work off of to make the different images for him to explode, and I'm thinking something different for him. So I'm going to use lasso cut, and I'm going to cut out different sections of him. So I can just cut that out, paste it, turn it into a layer, turn that layer off, cut out a section like this, and where you go on the canvas, it's not going to matter. It's just getting some different chunks of him. I want to make sure that I'm functioning in the right layer. Cut, paste, and I better turn this layer on. Yeah, made some mistake there. I was cutting in the wrong layer, and you have to be sure you're cutting in the right layer. So I'll cut this one out, paste it to new layer, turn it off, select the base layer, cut this out, paste it to new layer, turn it off, select the base layer, cut this out, paste it, send it to a new layer, turn it off, select the base layer, and we'll make, well, actually, we'll just call this good, because it gets across the idea. So we'll have his tail left intact. Then what I would do is export the images one at a time, selecting only one layer at a time. So I'm going to export 5 images. One will look like this, one will look like this, one will look like this, like that, and like that, and put them into a folder. Then I'll put those into Godot. So in the next video I'll come back, I'll have the animation of the player exploding from Blender and the 5 images that I just demonstrated here inside of Godot, and we'll look how to make those 2 sequences of images into animations for the player and enemy die routines. And until then, take care.